It's an honor to be here. I'm Marissa Lazo, Necco, and I'm honored to serve in CABE as part of the CABE board. I am currently board of director for community affairs, and I have been a director for parent relationships, and also for paraprofessionals affairs. So I'm just excited to be here today to share a little bit about my journey in CABE. My current role and what I get to do, what I'm very blessed and fortunate to do is I work, or it's hard work, right? It's just passion work, but I'm just honored to serve in the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools office, and so my role there is family and community engagement content manager. So I'm excited that I get to serve in my county, and the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools has been great partners and just familia with CABE. So I'm just honored to be part of this joint family that comes together and supports one another. I am truly I'm a fruit of parent leadership. And I'll tell you why. So I started in K 12 education in 1999, before Y2K, right? Remember those days? And I remember coming into the district, and my role was under the English Learners Department. We were doing compensatory education at the time, so everything that had to do with exams, bringing students together to make sure that we provided the assessment necessary and right placement, and any assessment throughout the year. But my role was to support the English learners team, which was led by Judith Hillary. So I came in and I was very young. I was in my early 20s, and I sat at that desk, and I remember reading about, we were supposed to have an ELAC, a DLAC. And so I went to my director and I said, what is an ELAC and DLAC? And she gave me items to read. So she said, you should call these parents. She's our DLAC president. So I called Maria, and I called this amazing lady who said, oh, you're new to the position. Don't worry. Why don't we make an appointment? I'll come into your office and I'll walk you through what our DLAC does and what an ELAC does. So she brought a binder, and in the binder it said CABE at the top. And so she had gone through some of the professional development that CABE's project Inspire had done. And at the time, it was the very beginning of Project Inspire. So I remember talking to her, and then she said she pretty much walked me through what family engagement needed to look like at a district level or at a site level, and what my role was to support English learners based on what she had learned through CABE's parent classes. And I was at awe with this amazing lady. I said, how can I get this training? Because I really want to learn like what you know. So she said, well, you have to attend a CABE. I just came back from a CABE Riverside conference, and it was beautiful. You need to attend the annual CABE that is coming up. So 2000 was my first CABE conference, and I attended because a parent leader inspired me, because she knew so much, and she walked me through my role on how to support her and all the students. It was beautiful. So, because of this experience with this parent, I remember coming to my director, and at the time, my role was to do assessment and DLAC and ELAC only. But I fell in love with family engagement so much that I said, can I help with just engaging families? And so, because of this guidance, because of the work that CABE had done with these parent leaders, and how she came to me and she taught me what to do, our DLAC participation went from 5 parents attending to 75 parents attending. And I don't want to take the credit at all. I want to give it to the parent leaders, because she sat with me, with my director, with her assistant soup, and she told us what we needed to do. And with their partnership, we really increased participation from different families at the district. And that is when I fell in love with family engagement. Um, because it also reminded me of my own journey as a student coming to this country from El Salvador at 11 years old, being an English learner myself at that time, and the many supports I needed, but I didn't know I needed. The supports that my family needed, but they didn't know they needed. And so I remember reflecting and thinking, if my parents would have had this parent meeting support, if my parents would have had someone to call them and tell them what little Marisa needed in order for her to be fluent in English, right? So I fell in love with family engagement. I fell in love with partnership work with our families and community because this parent leader came and showed me what it could look like and what it does for students. And it resonated with my heart because I'm an English learner. I'm going to cry. But, I am an English learner and I love it. I remember our raíces, where we come from, and what our kids need. From 1999 until 2005, I was honored to work with Victor Valley High School District, and I learned so much because we had a wonderful support from the county. We had Maria Elena Huizar, who came and supported us on the work of family engagement. And I remember when she retired, I remember thinking, I love family engagement. I really love doing this. I want to apply for this job. And so I applied, and I remember it was a grant. And when I called the county and I asked about it, they said, well, this is a grant. So, and it's a 5-year grant. So we just want to make sure that you know. But because it called out family engagement and what it said we were going to do with the community, I was just enamored with that thought. I've always been involved in church, in ministry, of service in the community. So I felt like this is just like that. This is just engaging families in education. It is serving our kids, our students, but in education. And so I felt a calling to apply. And so I came in and I was blessed to have an amazing director. And her name is Jan Gustafson Correa. I was blessed to have Erin, who was my program manager. I was blessed to have Chris, Dr. Chris, who was just an amazing support. Gil Diaz. So I remember I came into a team that showed me what Project Inspire was doing in our county. And so I learned a lot in that phase. I moved from that passion work, right? We all love to do family engagement work. We all love to serve our kids. And I feel like this work is hard work and people do it because they love it. But when you do it intentionally, you need to make sure that you bring strategies and frameworks to this work. And so I learned through Project Inspire and the amazing leadership that CABE was doing through this federal grant. I learned that family engagement not only has to be hard work, but it has to be systemic work. And so I really admire the work that CABE has done with family engagement because I have experienced that it wasn't just emotionally driven, it was intentional. It looked at research-based practice, promising practices like conocimiento, community learning theory from Dr. Roberto Vargas, who is, I admire him and respect him so much, which tells us how to really pause and ground ourselves in the community that we serve. CABE also looked at the dual capacity building framework from Harvard and how that work really focuses on providing support and leadership for families, but also for the staff. Because, like me, when I sat in that desk and I just looked at this paperwork, I had no idea what to do. I needed to have my own capacity build. And so CABE has been a leader in this work because when they started Project Inspire, they looked at systems and what a system needed. And they looked at best practices that would ground us in our community, but also practices that were driven by a framework. And so they looked at Harvard for that. And it has been successful. Till now, the parents that graduate from Project Inspire, they're just great leaders in their community, with their districts, and in our state. So CABE, I feel that when it comes to family and community engagement, it has been a leader, a trailblazer for many years in the state because it really grounded itself on grassroots efforts, right? And how do we make sure that we build community in order to build partnerships and then build leadership and co-power each other. And CABE has done it beautifully. My experience through it, and not only seeing it, but experiencing it, and now reflecting back on what it did for me as a staff that started in a school district, and the impact that I saw at a school district, and now the impact that I see at a county, I just see how inspiring it is. Um, so we love family engagement and we have funding at a district for family engagement. My experience is that when I got hired at a district, because there was funding for it, the position was allocated and the person was allocated to do the work, but there was no training, no capacity building for it. So I sat there and I was trying to figure it out myself. And I was just very lucky, very blessed to come across a parent that was connected with CABE's parent leadership work, that I got the support. But I feel that districts can do this intentionally, and that's where CABE comes in. And CABE has done this beautifully through developing parent leadership sessions, grounding it on frameworks. Dr. Roberto Vargas, Community Learning Theory, Conocimiento, Dr. Karen Maps, Dual Capacity Building Framework, and how it really builds capacity of families and staff. So CABE has done this intentionally, and they come to districts, to school sites, to offer the support. But that true partnership support of, we'll start by supporting you with family engagement, bringing our families together, but we'll also walk with you in this journey. And it's not a one-time session journey, it's 2-3 years journey, where your staff will get to walk with us this journey and build their relationships, build their capacities. And so what I've witnessed is the sites, the districts that partner with CABE from the early 2000s until now, I have seen that their staff have become very confident on how to work with families. They don't fear having real conversations with our community, because they started with building partnerships, building that trust with the community, and they had CABE's project to inspire coaches, mentors, supporting them in this journey. So they've seen it, they've shadowed, and now they're doing this work. What I have seen families do is it builds their capacity and their trust in the system. They see their sites investing in them. And I've seen parents that started with us in 2005 when I came to the county. They started as a parent who just wanted support for their kid. And now some of them are board members. Some at the county level, they're board members. Some at a district level, they're board members. Some of them are now CABE's staff and Project to Inspire coaches and mentors themselves. So both in families and in staff, when they receive this intentionality, this intentional support on how to build partnerships, I've seen them both build their own connections, their network. I've seen them both develop that confidence on how to work and partner with one another. And I see them doing this work not separately from what they're doing with other areas in their district. They really make family engagement connected to the work that they're doing in other areas like PBIS, multi-tier systems of supports, with English learners. So they really embed the work of family engagement throughout all of their content areas and other areas of work. So all of this, I say that CABE has been a trailblazer because it's been a model from the early 2000s. And if all districts would get that support, can you imagine where we would be? I am happy that now I hear more partners call out family school community partnership or family and community engagement, and we have moved away from parent involvement, right? And I love that that has been intentional. It was a lot of work. I want to also say that CABE has been a trailblazer in that. Early 2000s, I remember reading books where parent involvement was written all over it. And I remember Dr. Maria Quesada, Dr. Roberto Vargas, just coaching us on how do we make sure that we go into a district and have that conversation of the difference that we see when we're saying parent involvement versus family and community engagement. Parent involvement, nobody wants to just be involved. Yes, we get involved, but that is just a very shallow type of partnership. So we have grown a lot in our state and I think across our nation in this area because we see more and more people recognizing the difference of involving our families, involving our community, which is very, we'll call you when we need you. Thank you. Stay right there and we'll let you know when. to you're with us. We need you because our children are our children. This is a school like home. We will take care and love your babies from the moment that they get here until they get to your house, and we will nurture them and work with them in their and meet their needs. And your home is like a school. It's an extension of this classroom. You will know and have the tools necessary so you can support homework time, and we'll work with you to make sure that you have that. So that is engagement. And we have done a lot of work in the state within the last 20 years on shifting that perception of parent involvement. It's no longer enough. We need family and community engagement. And that is true partnership. That is really being there for each other in the good times and the bad times, right? Like an engagement. Um, but it is what we need to support all of our children. It has been my experience in this work that when families come to the dialogue, and I say families because sometimes that family could be a parent, sometimes a family is an auntie taking care of the baby, or a grandma, or a foster parent, right? But when families come to this conversation of, we want to make sure your child succeeds, and all of our children succeed, and families learn what that looks like, I feel like they become empowered to advocate for what's best for their kids. And when we reflect in our own family, in our culture, and we know who we are, and we're proud of that cultura, our values, I feel like we make the best decisions for our kids, not only academically, but for life. I feel like our families are very proud of who they are. We all come to this conversation proud of who we are, and we want our kids to be proud of who they are. And it's really hard to know where you're going and what you have, all that strength that you have within you, if you don't know who you are and your family is and your ancestors are. So when we are very proud of that within us, we want our kids to keep that. And as a parent myself, I want my kids to know who they are as citizens of the US, but also understanding who they are from their mom's side, their Salvadorian side, and the dad side, right? Peruvian side, and all of that they have inside of them, or that cultura, that richness. And so as a mom, I want my kids to keep language, to keep their values, their core. And so to me, I feel like when families, I'm not the only parent who wants that. All families want that. And so when families are empowered and they understand what education can do to support their children, but also that multilingual education and keeping the language, keep it being able to honor culture and being able to show up at a school site for who you are and bring that to the school site and share that with everybody else and celebrate all the diversity at the table. I feel that that is powerful because then we're focusing not only academically on making sure our kids are successful for life, but also we're going to make sure that they know who they are, where they come from, and they stand strong on who they are. And they bring that with them in every space, in the classroom, in the community, and eventually in the work field as an adult. So I do feel that when we are working with families and we bring them this information of you have a right to advocate for multilingual programs, um, because this is what it does to your children. I feel that families own that and they see, okay, this is what we want for our community. So that I see that has happened across the state. People are more aware of what multilingual programs do for themselves, for their children, for their community, and for the future. So I'm very proud to see families advocating. They learn, they understand what it does, and they advocate for it, rightfully so. And I'm very proud to see principals and teachers advocating because they see also the benefit. When it comes to acknowledging the work that CABE has done historically in having difficult conversations that really support um, our communities, our children, our families coming from other countries. CABE has done that in very inspiring ways. When I first joined the work of CABE, I really was inspired to do it because I saw the many people that fought this fight of proving that children need to be acknowledged for what they bring, the cultura, their culture, their language, and they shouldn't have to leave that outside of themselves. They should bring that to the classroom and build on that richness, right? And become bilingual, trilingual. Um, and I saw these heroes in my eyes. These are heroes who fought the fight so I could benefit as a student. And I came to this country in the 80s. My journey was one of those of sink or swim, right? You go into a classroom and you're the only student that I was the only student that didn't speak English. And I remember my school did not have an ESL, at the time it was ESL. They didn't have an ESL teacher. So they would bring one from the high school. I was in middle school. They would bring her on a Friday. And I received 1 hour a week of computer time with earphones, just listening to, microwave, microonda, and just words. I didn't receive the proper language acquisition support until high school. So that was 2 years of my life that I would only receive 1 hour a week. And I say that to say that I remember thinking one day, it is because of heroes that I see in Kabe who made this research, who brought this dialogue forward statewide, that programs are now in place, programs that I needed when I was in middle school. So when I learned about Kabe and the advocacy that it has done, and now these are researchers, these are doctors, these are professors who have advocated for students like me, and they have done this work like, heroes across the state and nationwide, that I was inspired to give back. And I came into Kabe as a Kabe board because of that, because I believe that if it wasn't for these amazing humans who said we need to do better for our kids, those programs wouldn't be in place, and kids would still have the same experience that I had in middle school. And so I feel like now more than ever, just like in the past, people spoke up about what's right for kids. I think that now more than ever, we need to do that for our kids, because history repeats itself. And if we don't understand what's happening in history, then we're going to allow things to happen again. And so now I'm serving in this board in hopes to continue to contribute to what these wonderful heroes did in the past, because it's the right thing to do for our kids. And so we have so many new teachers, generations coming in onto Kabe, and I'm just so inspired because these are teachers who have this drive to support our kids, and they're joining this Kabe effort. And just like me, they're learning about what Kabe has done in advocacy to support not just multilingual access, but equity, and social justice, right? To make sure that when we are raising and supporting kids in the classroom, we are raising them to be proud of who they are and give the best of themselves, of everything they are in their community. And I can't divorce myself from who I am. I am Salvadorian, and I love my birth country. And I came to this country at 11 years old, and I love the United States because it embraced me and my family. So I am both. And my kids are three things. And so I want them to continue to feel proud of those three backgrounds that they have. So for me, the work of advocacy for that work, for culturally values, culturally responsive practices in the classroom, for me, the work of advocating for multilingual programs to make sure that our kids are just equipped when they go into the work field, not just in the United States, but across the nation. That is important. That's what we need to do for our kids to really serve them well. So one day I can look at my kids as 25, 30-year-old young man or young lady, and they can apply for any job in the world because they're equipped with those tools to work with diversity, right? So I thank Kabe because it inspired me, and I want to give back, and that's why I'm serving in this board. what kind of impact have I had in the vision of CABE? Well, that's hard because I, I look at CABE and the leaders of CABE, the past board presidents, the past CEOs, and I wish I was a researcher or just brilliant like they are, right? I'm a true fan of their work. Um, so it humbles me because I'm not a researcher and I haven't done all the amazing work that they have done. But I've always felt like in Spanish we say mi granito de arena, right? I have something to bring to the table. And so how I have contributed is through that ministry of service. So I mentioned earlier that I came to this work to serve families, and it reminded me of the work that I've done in church for many years with my family, serving our community. So when I met and I found out about CABE, it really resonated with my heart because I came in into a CABE conference and it was family, it was service, it was joy, it was bringing hope, it was lifting our children, it was lifting our families. So it resonated with my heart. And so I was feeling very honored to support and bring my granito de arena, my piece of the puzzle into the conversation by serving our families through family engagement and through providing services, providing them information, connecting families with one another. So the way that I feel I have contributed is two ways. One, by supporting with the work of Project Inspire. And we did that at the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools office. When that grant finished, I was not able to continue it, but I continued that hard work. We continued conocimiento. We continued the work that I learned through Project Inspire to build partnerships. So I've contributed through building community and supporting families and lifting their knowledge. That's all we do. We just put a mirror and we show families all the wonderful leadership that they have, and they realize it and they're like, oh, I have a lot to give. So that's one way I feel I've contributed. A second way is by joining the CABE board because there's that advocacy, right? That's when we look at systems and we look at what's coming, what trailer bills are coming that are going to impact the classroom. And I feel like that's one way that CABE really, I'm humbled to say that CABE is a true leader, silent leader that, looks at this pieces, but then when it's time, they speak up at the right time. It's silent because I think people know CABE because of the CABE conference. But there's so much that happens throughout the year that CABE is really leading silently, and when it's the right time, CABE says, we're ready, and we're ready to share our voice, and it'll be a loud voice then. There is so much I can say about the work CABE does in terms of international partnerships. There's so much that I could say of how this international partnership impacts statewide. And sometimes we see the impact statewide, but we ask ourselves, well, how does it trickle down to the classroom, which is why we're here, right, to support kids. So I am honored to say that in our county, I see it really play out in the classroom level. And I can walk you through this example. We've done partnership with Spain and we've done partnership with Mexico. We have visited Mexico with our state superintendent, right? And we have memorandums of understanding about the children that we serve, the children that come here to the U.S. and then they go to Mexico and then they come back and they move, right? Our families move, and if we don't pay attention to this, we'll have kids fall through the crack because they are not receiving full support academically in one language, one country, or the other, and that's human work. That's what I'm passionate about, and that's why I'm here in this CABE board because that's what CABE is passionate about, making sure that when we say all students, we mean all students. And so this work, this partnership with Mexico has really trickled down to the classroom in the county that I work with. We have done this statewide partnership where superintendents signed this memorandum of understanding. But it didn't stay in that paper. It really moved to having teachers visit Baja California, Tijuana, and vice versa. We followed up with a tour to the systems that Mexico has in place, because Mexico has beautiful systems in place to enhance bilingualism and multiculturalism. And so we went to visit and learn about their system. And they come to visit and learn about ours, right? So there's real partnership. And we have the Mexican Consul's office part of this work, which then allows us county staff to build strong partnerships with the Mexican Consul's office. And that vision that we have about, you know, no muros, pero hay que hacer puentes. That vision that we have of building bridges, not walls, but bridges that support children, really trickles down to the classroom through the work that we do with our local Mexican consul office, Salvadorian consul office, Guatemalan consul office, because we can now look at that vision, look at that partnership that we've established and say, okay, what do our families need here locally? And in our county, I can say we're great partners with our local Mexican consul office. I work closely with Tammy Garcia Chiang and the Consul de Mexico and the Consul de El Salvador and Guatemala, looking at what do the families need, what information do they need, what books do they need to receive, and make sure that families know how to navigate the system here. We have families who come from Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador. They become residents, citizens, but they don't acquire the language and they don't know how to navigate the system. Well, we are here with the Ventanilla Educativa. We are here with the educational window that can support you and teach you how to navigate this educational system, which is different than where you went to school. And that helps the children succeed. So we have these partnerships. We can continue to trickle down to the site level and ask the principals, hey, how many families need in your area to understand, how to receive academic support? Or the parents may be there looking into finishing their school, and we have Plaza Comunitarias, which helps them get access to academic content, and that builds parents' confidence so they can now engage in academic support for their children. So this memorandum of partnership that we sign, it really trickles down to the classroom level. It really moves us to build these bridges of communication with our international partners. So I'm honored to say that I've been part of that work with CABE, and I look forward to building more international partnerships with other countries. When I think of my own family, I'm a daughter of Jose Lorenzo Lazo and Delsa Lazo, and they're amazing humans who, in their home country, my mom was a teacher, my dad was an accountant, and they had hopes and dreams for us there. And because of a civil war, they had the choice to stay or to look for safety for their children, and they did that, right? And as a parent, I think back and I think, if I was in their shoes, I would do the same in a heartbeat, right? Because we want the best for our kids. So a lot of the work that I think my siblings have done in ministry, in church ministry, and in the community has been because of my parents, because they raised us to not be afraid of change, but to also not be afraid of serving. So I am very honored to say that when I do the work of serving families, I do it because of my families, because my mom and my dad taught us that. And everything that I do, really, I wouldn't be able to do it without my parents. One, I think people have always asked me, you have young kids, how are you doing this work? And I always say, I don't know, God is great. But I also say my parents are great, and they've always been there for me. When they heard that I joined CABE board and what CABE does, they said, I remember my son was 6 months, and they said, don't worry about it. Whatever you need, we'll go with you to whatever conference you need to go to, because this is important work. This reminds us of us. And so my parents are so proud of Cabe. They love Cabe. Every time I come from Cabe, they always say, "Tell us more. What happened?" Um, my parents, so my parents are cabistas. My when Eliana was when my first daughter was born, Eliana was born, they went with us and we sit in a room, all four of us in that room, and they would just come down and stroll the babies. People would meet my daughter. um Same thing with my son. My parents, they really love the work that Kabe does, and they love everybody that is part of Kabe because it reminds them, one, of who they are um, as a couple. They've always served those around them, and they it really connects with their core values. And I feel like they're so proud that and they feel blessed that I came across this organization, that I embraced it so much. It embraced me back. It embraced my family back. That they've always supported the work of Kabe. But I like to say that everything that I've been able to do, I do it thinking of my mom and dad, and it makes me cry. I get emotional because it really is about that. It Kabe really is about family, and I'm very proud of that. It's about keeping family values, keeping family beliefs, keeping your culture, being proud of where you've been, where your family has been, and being able to add to that and give back to this community. So I publicly want to say thank you, mom and dad, because this is you. My favorite memory of Kabe. And I'm gonna connect it with my family because they were there. My parents were always there. My husband would go. So I remember this like it was just yesterday. And it was pre-COVID. So you know how like COVID really blur all of our memories. So I'm like, this was just yesterday. But no, it was a few years ago because my son was just in a, he was still walking barely. Um, so I remember him in a stroller. My daughter was next to my son. My husband was pushing the stroller, and the cabin conference had it had culminated. It was on Saturday. We had attended all of our sessions, and so my mom and dad were leaving. My husband had come to help us pack up because we had been there for the whole week. And so I remember them with all the luggage, and they were going to go to the car. And then they tell me, hey, and this is one of my first conferences, so I didn't know that there was going to be a whole gathering to culminate the conference. We usually finish with our membership meeting and we sing, but this one just felt different. This culmination was different. So I told them, I said, hey, we have the meeting right now. I just had to step out and give you the car keys. Um, and then I said, but do you want to come in and just, wait for me in there? And so they came in and they were standing at the door, and the meeting ended, but there was so much joy from Kabe. Everybody was there. So the membership meeting was just wrapping up. I want to say there were about maybe 100 people. So it was pretty well attended. And we were dancing, we were singing. My daughter came in and started dancing because she was just so happy with the songs. And then everybody formed a huge circle of unity. And it was just beautiful. And my parents joined the circle of unity. And my husband with Noah, my son, joined the circle of unity. And they were at the back. And I just remember not seeing that difference between my family and the Cabe family. It was just all a beautiful family. So I love that story. And I want to say that Cabe has been about family, and it's another beautiful memory that I have that every end of the year, Cabe celebrates in June or July, all the accomplishments. But they celebrate it in a very unique and special way. I really appreciate and I love. They ask the staff members to bring their families, and they honor the staff members for their years of service in front of their husbands, their wives, their kids. And what a beautiful way to celebrate them, because when you serve a community, when you serve in your job, right? But this Kabe doesn't feel like a job. Kabe just feels like a ministry, but yet it is your job. And when your job or your work is recognizing you in front of your family, what a powerful message that sends. Families give a lot of their time for you to work, and for them to see you get recognized in this environment that really honors family, it's just beautiful. And so, just like in that one day at that conference, that I felt that my family was part of the Kabe family, I feel like that's what Kabe does for everyone that works in the organization. I think here's another one of my favorite memories of Cabe, and it involves my boss, Superintendent Alejandro. It was, I want to say it was 2017 or 2018 Cabe. We were at Long Beach, and it was, no, it wasn't Long Beach, it was Anaheim, because we're on the third floor. The Parent Resource Center was at the third floor, and it was the grand opening. You know, Wednesday morning is when we open the Parent Center. Parents come in, and they're really in casita. That's their home. We have cafecito, we have coffee, we have snacks. So we were gonna open the Parent Center, and it was packed. When I say packed, I say 1,000 people packed. It was packed, and I remember my boss, Superintendent Alejandro, he loves the work of CABE. So he asked me, can I please be there when they open up the Parent Center? Because we were the committee hosting the Parent Center. So I remember I was looking out for him and I couldn't find him. I was like, he texted me he was there, but I couldn't find him. And so I walked to the front and I'm thinking like, where is he? I want to make sure that he knows where the room is. And I turn back and I see them cutting the ribbon and opening the door, and I see my boss in the middle of everybody. He's just singing. They came into the Parent Center singing and dancing, and he was singing and dancing, and I thought, oh, I am looking for him, but he was already there. He was ready to go. He knew where the party was. And that was one of my favorite grand openings for the Parent Center, because we started with music and we walked into the stage with music. He said a beautiful message to the families that joined. And ever since then, I think that was my first time that I was leading the committee for the Parent Center, and he was the chair for that conference. But ever since then, every time that we get the opportunity, and Cabe is in the Southern California part, he always says, are we hosting the Parent Center? It is close to his heart. And he just loves to see families come in and receive the support, the help. And I just love the ambiente. So I always tell parents when I see them at the Cabe, have you been at the Cabe conference? Have you been to the Parent Center? You need to go, because that's your home. That's where you're going to get all the support that you need and network with other amazing parents. So that's another, I love that memory, because I remember my superintendent just enjoying the entrance to the and the kickoff to the Parent Center. My vision for Cabe is that it continues to be this light. Cabe has been a light, and I just can see it continuing for many generations to come. I can't believe I'm here on the 50th anniversary, and I look back, I've heard these testimonies of these amazing leaders who got us here, and I feel a sense of responsibility to now continue this work. And so my vision is that CABE will continue it. I see so many young new teachers that every year they join. We ask on the first day, how many of you are attending CABE for the first time? And half of the room stands up. And I'm excited to see that, because that means that there's new educators who learn about CABE and the support that they get there, and they join and they want to be part of this familia. And I envision them being the next leaders for the next generations. And so I have that sense of responsibility that we need to continue the work. And my vision for CABE is to continue to be that light of hope, light of best practices, light of research, light of support for the many teachers that come in the next generations, and to prepare them best to serve the next generations of students to come. So I have advice for the future educators and the future families to come. Our times are changing. Our kids' needs are changing. Our kids are amazing, and they are the amazing leaders that we need in the future. And so we need to do them well. We need to do them justice. And so my recommendation, my advice for teachers is continue to get the support. Look for those who will bring that light within you. And I know CABE does, and there are other organizations that does, but in CABE, look to those who can support you in this path, because believe me, there are so many leaders in CABE that that's what they love to do, support one another. So continue to get connected and invest in yourself, because that's how you can best serve the kids that will come to you, the families that will come to you. And my advice for families is continue to be our partners. And there are so many young moms. I'm excited to see the new generation of moms and dads to come, right? Our kids are changing. Our needs need to change with that, right? Our kids are changing. Our support to meet that need needs to change with that. And so I want to see us celebrating 100 years and saying that at the 50th celebration mark, we made sure that we reflected on what we did right, and we reflected on what needs to be changed to continue to be right and do right for our kids. And when we get to the 100th anniversary, we are proud of who we are. We continue to be proud of who we are and what CABE has done. One message that I want to share as I just reflect on my service in the CABE board is gratitude. Gratitude to the many leaders that I've been able to learn from. Since the moment that I started learning about CABE, my tenure in CABE and my service through Project Inspire or the board, the people who have helped me grow, learn about myself, but also learn about the work of advocacy. And I can think of, through Project Inspire, the team, the amazing leaders, Maria Villa, just so many leaders that I don't want to not announce, but just so many parents that have become leaders that I've learned from as well. And they have inspired me to continue this work, because I see the value in it and the difference that it makes. The many board members that I've worked with, so many of them, but each one of them has really taught me a lot through their leadership, and it has been an honor to serve in this board with them. And then what can I say about the presidents who have led this work? It's tough work. When you're a president of the board, you really do become engaged and married to the work of CABE. So I just want to thank all the CABE board presidents that I've been able to serve under, because they have really demonstrated for me what it is to really be a servant leader. And many of them have been superintendents themselves in their own districts and giving this servant leadership work. And of course, the CEOs. CABE has been and continues to be a familia with people who just serve from the heart. When you think of CABE, you see the CABE conference and it's huge. But when you go to the team, you realize that it's a small but mighty team. And the CEOs that have led this work are servant leaders who marry the organization themselves because they really live there. From Dr. Maria Quesada, Jan Gustafson Correa, Dr. Edgar Lampkin, I just see just how amazing work they're doing, because they really are selfless and they really just come to this work because they love to serve children, the families, the teachers, the community. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you to all of them, because this work wouldn't happen without their leadership, without them modeling for others what servant leadership looks like. So just thank you to all of them. I have learned and grown in this space because of you. En estos 50 años, CABE, felicidades por los 50 años de jornada y de liderazgo que has traído a este estado y a todo el mundo. Feliz aniversario, CABE. Happy anniversary, CABE, 50 years. Here's to the 50 years of leadership, joy and love that you have brought to this state and to the world. Happy anniversary.